now we have, a very interesting question, especially just to find out, the regulation in my view is very, very clear and very good regulation, but whether people will follow the regulation or not is the question. Now, the question is about regulation 14, 15 and 16, which is talking about the point of commencement of supply, the safety regulations or the safety requirements to be made by the electricity supply company at the point of commencement of supply. So I would like to invite Jameskutty sir to answer to this question.
Thank you, Gopa. Good evening to all the participants. Say, as per regulation 14, actually it is very clear to how suppliers switchgear before the point of commencement of supply. There should be a switchgear before the point of commencement of supply. Then as per it is mentioned as per the para 1 of 14, but as per para 2 it is mentioned that the switchgear should be protective type. You know what is the difficulty when implementing these? Some people will go through the para 1. Switchgear means even an isolator can be a switchgear. So some of the suppliers are installing even isolator in place of the switchgear. But in the second para it is telling that it should be protective type. So it is making confusion. That's about regulation 14. So it is better to express directly the name to protective type switchgear before the point of commencement of supply by the supplier. This is now explained as 2 individual para. That is about the regulation 14. Then about the regulation 15. See, another thing along with the regulation 14, I like to club it with the regulation 35 and regulation 42. You know, regulation 35 means after the point of commencement of supply, there must be a switchgear provided by the consumer. It is mentioned that actually the difficulty is coming to the LV consumers. There in regulation 35 it is telling that there must be a linked switch or circuit breaker. Actually, you know, can we achieve 100% isolation either to the supplier, either with the supplier switchgear or with the consumer switchgear? It is not possible. It is not mentioned in regulation 14 or 35. Means 100% for 100% isolation, some wording should be there in either 14 or 35, because linked switch fuse or circuit breaker may not be with the isolation duty. You know, switch and isolator, they are entirely different. So what I am telling is, with the regulation 45, either it should be mentioned like this with the isolation duty. That is what I am asking for. Then when some suppliers are implementing regulation 45, regulation 35, they are mixing it with the regulation 42. Means there must be an RCCB. See, in Kerala, some of the supplier engineers are not giving supply if there is an RCCB is not provided in just after the point of commencement supply. Means it is actually violating regulation 35. Means as per regulation 35, there must be a linked switch fuse unit or a circuit breaker near to the point of commencement supply. But in Kerala, they are telling that there must be an RCCB in front of the switchgear. Okay, actually RCCB itself may not have isolation duty. So it should be made more clear. That is what I am telling. About the regulation 15 and the regulation 16, I think it is not that much confused, but needs some clarification. Regulation 15, the provision added after para 2 is making a little bit confusion. Otherwise, it should be explained clearly. Means about I shall quote the words. It is telling that the earthed conductor or the earthed neutral conductor should not be provided with the cutout or something like a protective element. It should not be there. Otherwise, it can be linked with, it can be operated through a linked arrangement. That is what telling that. But at the end of the para 2, it is telling that provided that some provision is added there, provided that the above requirement shall not apply in case of a link for testing purpose or a switch for use in controlling a generator and transformer. I request to have more clarification about this provision. About the 16, regulation 16, it is explaining that there is an earth terminal provided by the supplier. But actually, I don't know in India whether it is provided. It is nowhere it is such an earth terminal is provided. So that much about regulation 14 and 15, regulation 14, 15 and 16. I need the clarification explained regarding these three. Okay, thank you.
Sir, thank you. Thank you very much for the reply, sir. If I read, let us say, for example, regulation number 16, it is the responsibility of the supplier, energy supplier, to provide the earthed terminal at consumer premise. Am I correct, sir? Jameskutty, sir, am I correct?
Yes, yes, it is correct.
Responsibility of the supplier to provide earthed terminal at the consumer premise. That is correct. Am I right, sir?
Yes.
The question is, are they providing, the energy supplier, are they providing an earthed terminal at consumer premise?
I don't think it is not implemented anywhere in India.
Yeah, I have never seen. I have never seen anybody. No, this says that earth terminal, particularly up to 250 volt, and beyond 250 volt, in addition to the consumer. There is earth terminal is to be provided by the supplier, but I have never seen a earth terminal is provided by the supplier.
Yes, actually, the earthed terminal, if we look at the historically the old standards, basically the British standards and all, earthed terminal during those days, 1950s, 60s, they were talking about a TNS system or a TNCS system. But if we read the regulation, it's very clear. But unfortunately, the energy supply companies are not providing a TNS or a TNCS system. Anybody else would like to answer? Apav, sir, your experience in Tamil Nadu?
Yes, what I would like to insist here is, we have forgotten one important provision. Generally, Act and regulation purpose of these statutory requirements are to afford safety to the general public. You can see as per regulation 16.1, the provisional clause, second provisional clause 16.1 reads, provided further that the supplier may not provide any earthed terminal in the case of installation already connected to his system on or before the date to be specified by the state government in his behalf, if he is satisfied that the consumer setting arrangement is efficient. This goes without saying that it's the responsibility of the DISCOM, the supplier, to provide an earthed terminal. And another thing, if he wants to get himself satisfied that he will not provide, a date should be promulgated by the state government. Has any of the state government have notified such a date, up to which date the supplier can provide or exempt the installation from providing an earthed terminal? So I think there are some things are missing. It is not implemented by the stakeholders, not only the DISCOM, by the government, DISCOM, and contracted everywhere. In each and every, if you see meticulously the each and every aspect of the regulation is beautifully drafted, but implementation is missing either from the supplier side or from the government side. Ultimately, the purpose of ensuring safety to the general public at large is somewhat compromised. It's my feeling.
So thank you very much, sir. We have Mr. our Deputy Chief Electrical Inspector of Gujarat, Khoja sir. He was just there. Sir Khoja sir, you can unmute yourself and probably we would like to listen to you.
Yes. Am I audible, sir? Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a minute. Let me. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible. Very clear.
Sir, good evening to all of you.
Khoja sir, namaskar.
Namaskar, sir.
Doctor.
Apav sir, how are you, sir?
Good evening, sir. Fine, fine. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Happy to see you
Sir,
after some time.
I have an input over this earthed terminal on consumers' premises. In the state of Gujarat, one issue was raised way back in the year 2005-6 in the era of Indian Electricity Rules 1956, whereby that date of something to, 1960 was specified in the Rules 1956. It was June 1960, if I'm not mistaken. So one argument was raised, and it was a big issue that was raised against all the discoms in the state of Gujarat, that the discoms are not providing earthed terminal to the consumers. And a long exercise went on, and the matter was referred to the regulatory commission as well. And at the end of the exercise, the Gujarat Urja Vikas Nigam Limited, the state-owned discoms holding company, decided to provide earthed terminal to each and every consumer, residential, of course, by providing an earth pit at the consumer's doorstep. That is based on TT system. Of course, we had raised the issue at that point of time that instead of providing earth terminal by means of a TT system at consumer doorstep, it would be really meaningful if we make providing RCCB compulsory for that. But at that point of time, the opponents argued that ELCB, those time, as you, Apav sir, had told that we never, we are unable to leave the old jargons very quickly. So ELCB is a very popularly known term, and it was used, and the argument was based on that ELCB. We had argued that instead of going for TT system, we should go for ELCB. That would be really meaningful. Then the other opponent side, it construed ELCB in its true sense, ELCB, that is a voltage operated device. They did not meant it RCCB, current operated device. And they said that in absence of earthing, ELCB would be futile. It would be useless. And that argument was very correct. If we think in terms of the original ELCB, which was a voltage operated device. So ultimately, GUNL decided to go for TT system. And we have been receiving number of complaints from the public that the earth terminal provided under TT system is offering a very huge earth resistance that is being prepared by the contract through an outsourcing. And many times you observe a value of 15 ohms, 20 ohms, and so on and so forth. So, of course, this earth terminal, I don't know in which other state it is being implemented. But in Gujarat, almost quite old installations have also been provided with TT system earth terminal. And it is still going on. But of course, we made one recommendation to the CEA that this RCCB is mandatory 30 milliampere sensitivity for domestic consumers only. And in case of fire experience in the hospitals during the COVID-19 situation, so we have recommended CEA to make it 30 milliampere also for the installations like hospitals where handheld equipments are used. So let's see, I had a talk to CEA authorities, and they have assured that it would be considered suitably in that. Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Thank you very much, sir.
Sir Rathore here. Sir, it is not only for that our hospitals, we are also taking care for that airport or the mall, like a large, where the large number of people are collecting. So this
Yes,
recommendation will be definitely be taken care.
Sir, we have made one more. We have made one more recommendation. We have suggested that the threshold limit of 2 kilowatts should also be removed as far as installation of RCCB is concerned.
Yes. That is again one issue, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Can I have a comment, please?
Yeah, please.
Mr. Khoja has said about the legal process that has gone through regarding providing an earth pit. And if I have understood correctly what happened in Gujarat, I mean, to what extent it is justified to provide an earth pit maintained by a supplier at the consumer premises? Whether that is the intention of the regulation, or probably, in my opinion, the intention is to provide, instead of 2 wire coming from the pole to the consumer provider, it should be a 3 wire with the earthing connection coming from the supplying side itself, so that this there is a continuity all through is available, and probably the resistance value would not be, I mean, earth resistance can be maintained in a appropriate way. Probably that is
Yes, you are absolutely right, sir. A lot of deliberations were made on this subject, and we made several experiments by going for TNS, TNCS, But at the end of the entire exercise, even we had gone, we had received one study report from ERDA also, Electrical Research and Development Agency. They had also recommended TNCS, but unfortunately, I cannot comment much on it. But it was decided by the DISCOM authorities to go for TT system, and it is really debatable the effectiveness and monitoring or reliability of that system. I would personally feel that instead of going for this TT system, it is always advisable to provide one RCCB in the installation, which will definitely trip even in absence of earthing system by giving just a jolt to the person who is coming in contact with live wire. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Kojaji. We have actually a very well experienced gentleman from Kerala State Electricity Board, Mr. George, Shri George. He has raised his hand and I've allowed to speak. Sir, please, your answer, please. And Mr. George, to introduce him, he is always writing, a lot of advice, a lot of informations to us, and he is always supporting us in our safety awareness classes. Welcome, sir. We are waiting for your answer.
Good evening. That actually I want to.
If you can switch on your camera, would be better.
Okay. Actually, I want some clarification in this regard, because once you decide on earthing, once you wanted to decide on earthing, we need to have the supply system. That is whether we have going for TNS or TNCS or TT. First, we need to decide, the utility need to decide what type of supply system we want to follow. Then only we can decide upon the earthing system. The issue in CA regulation, in safety regulation, I found that if you go through the various regulations, it is directly pointing towards that is TNS system. If you wanted to comply various regulations at various points, TNS is the apt system for the supply system, because we have regulation 73. We need to have a earthing point at the consumer premises, etc., etc. So at the end, I found that TNS system is the apt one, where if you wanted to have all the regulations appropriately complied. But the main issue is that there is a lot of confusion regarding this this system of supply. So everybody is trying to follow as per these whims and fancies, and it is not TNS, it is not TNCS, it is not TT even. So my request for this CA is that if regulation need to elaborate what type of system we need to follow and the respective type of earthing, then only it will be clarified for an implementing point of view. Otherwise, everybody will be following different type of earthing system, different type of network system, and at the end, safety will be compromised. This is what I wanted to say. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyway, our
Actually, Gujarat, I visited Gujarat in that specific case pointed out by Shri Goza. The entire system, most of the system I have seen is TT, because it was already laid down. We can't change the history and geography of the particular area. The entire Vadodara area, the neutral wire was run on insulators. Not only in Gujarat, in Tamil Nadu also, it is run on insulator at certain system. In some system, it is run on brackets attached, metallic brackets attached to the poles, metallic pole or RCC pole, and it is earthed. So TT and TNS system or PME system in the distribution network is prevalent. It varies from system to system, one system within the system in the same state. So it is not possible to change the entire, replace the entire insulator and make it as a PME system in Gujarat. It is practically not possible. That's why they have suggested ELCB. It doesn't mean that we can't restrict the consumer or the supplier or the user by regulation that you go for TT or you go for TN, you go for IT system. It should be depending upon the type of installation. It may vary for the, we can generally say that for say for residential premises or commercial premises, you go for TNSST's economic level. For new thing, it's okay. For the existing system, it's very tough to change the entire system. That is why the regulation provides an opportunity to mitigate according to the existing provision and without compromising safety. We can't construe that CEA should insist a particular type of earthing system for a universal system for all installations.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
No, I need to just one clarification now, because the type of earthing need to be according to this one. But in Kerala, we can find that even neutral is not insulated. They are just this one installing the neutral on cross arms, means metallic cross arms, and it is creating a lot of problem. So if you wanted to go for a TNCS, no, what type of earthing you are using is okay, but you need to tell that what type of earthing for what type of system. But it is confused everywhere. If you are using an neutral bare neutral conductor on a cross arm without any insulator, and the same being used as a earthing system also, there is a lot of issue with the, and again you are using same ST33 kV 11 and LT in the same supports. So at the end, the safety is compromised everywhere.
Of course, what you say, I agree. But it varies. We should accept that it varies from state to state and within the system of the same state. And also, there is one more point important. What is important we have to address is that the TNS system is not universally understood by the user, by the supplier. They do not understand what we are providing. We have to ensure through, actually CEA regulation have come out with the standards for suppliers lines, concession of lines. There are several standards by CEA, and this is applicable for the consumer premises. We can't make MSCS 2010 to be entirely applicable for the supplier as well. A part is applicable for the supplier, and there is more specific provision for the supplier under another concession regulations. So these part they have provided. After seeing all these things, the CEA has introduced in late 80s the provision of RCDs, that is RCBOs now we call. So these are the things that after seeing the problems and mitigation, CEA come out with several intermittent solutions like oil filter transformer in multi-story buildings or commercial premises or residential buildings. So we can't expect CEA to fix standards. Standards are well laid down. The suppliers, how the supplier have to make it is in IS 732 itself and IEC itself. So detailed standards can't be made in regulation. We have to refer, there is no other way. We have to refer the particular standard, and the supplier have to enhance their system in consultation with the other departmental stakeholders. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Mughal. You have any answers to say? You have raised your hand.
Yes, because after listening all this beautiful conversation is happening place between Aparav sir and Josh sir. So I would like to say that in the proposed regulation, in the draft copy, we have actually tried to avoid this confusion at multiple places where this earthing thing has been used. We have said the earthing should be as per IS 3043, and the wiring and all those electrical wiring, whatever we do, shall be as per IS 732 up to particular voltage level. So we are trying to minimize all those things where we can have to have some confusion and all those things, because what happened once the regulations was seen by the secretary, he was saying that the material itself is a cumbersome, that voluminous material itself, it is there. So he actually requested us to shorten it as much as possible. So we are just trying to do our best to avoid this confusion and to have appropriate standards for earthing and other technical things we can have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mughal. Thanks for the information. Actually, if we look at the history of our regulation, of course, it has started from the British regulation, and now what Britishers do is the British regulation by the government is giving freedom to the energy supply company to adopt his own system, whether it can be a PME system, TT, TNS, or whatever. Only thing is the energy supply company has to make, he has to first publish his the adopted system for public comments, and they have to adopt. Now, for example, in UK, they have the ENA, Energy Network Association. You can also Google it and you can find out from the internet. Energy Network Association, that means all the energy supply companies association. They make their own system. Let's say, for example, if they go for a PME system, how it has to be extended in an existing system or in a new system, in overhead line, in underground line. Similarly, if they go for a TT system, let's say, for example, for petrol pumps, in a PME system, if you adopt a TT, what has to be done? Or if you adopt a TNS, what has to be done? So like that, the Energy Suppliers Association, they made their own requirements based on the IEC standard, and here actually the things are very clear because the regulation is very clear. It gives the freedom to the energy supplier, and energy supplier make the standards very clear. Overall, finally, the consumer premise is protected. Whereas in India, I think the energy suppliers, this kind of a document is totally missing.